Hello and welcome to A Normal Meets a Nerd, a podcast with me, Dylan Evans, a normal person who loves asking abnormal questions you've always wanted to know the answer to.
And me, Darragh, a nerd who tries to provide proper scientific and entertaining answers to those questions.
I was thinking after the first couple of episodes, I've never really addressed, do you mind being called a nerd?
No.
It seems a bit harsh when I suggested it. I was like, he's a nerd. He's a nerd.
But I am a nerd.
Oh, so you admit that?
Oh, 100%. But it used to be, a slur. And people used to go, oh, it's a name you called someone to put them down. But nerd's kind of cool now.
You reclaimed it.
Yeah, well, computer games have become cool. Things I was made fun of, like Lord of the Rings and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. People think it's cool now.
No, they don't. Yeah. But in terms of what is a nerd? What would you describe? In your head? I mean,
in my head, it's
a genius or different.
Well, like Milhouse said in The Simpsons, I'm not a nerd. Nerds are smart. they tend to be kind of geeky and into computer-based stuff and fantasy things and that kind of.
So you're a nerd.
Yeah, very niche interests where they're really, really into it. And yeah, so you can be a nerd about football.
Would you say you're a genius?
No, I reserve the word genius for a very, very small proportion of people. I'm not one of them.
But in comparison to me, you're a genius.
I'm quite smart and I'm quite clever.
Quite?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm right.
So say 100 is like genius. Where are you?
I'd say I'm sort of in the 80s, kind of.
What am I?
I'd say 50s or 60s. You're smarter than you
I'll take 60s. Right, that's on my CV. That's on my CV. Start with a good question here, by the way. One I've always been really interested in. What was it like the day the meteor that killed the dinosaurs hit the Earth?
Okay, so this was not a pleasant day to be around.
No.
There's a couple of misconceptions people have. One is that they think everything happened instantly and all the dinosaurs died on the same day. That's not true.
It's kind of half what I thought.
Yeah, and they just have this idea that they were all wiped out. But even saying that, it was a horrible, horrible day. If you were anywhere near where that meteor hit, and I mean, globally anywhere
Was
near.
it just one?
Yeah.
Just one big one?
As far as they know, yeah. So, but it was really big. It was 15 kilometers across. So.
Oh my God.
9 miles across. And it hit near the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. So, and there's a huge crater there.
I was going to say, how do we know this even happened?
So there's a massive crater called.
Where's the rock?
It was scattered all around the world. So It wasn't just that it was big, it hit at immense speed. It really, really hit very, very quickly. So it smashed into the earth and it completely exploded. So this huge 150 kilometer wide crater, I don't know how to pronounce this, the Chicxulub, it's one of those Mexican words, crater is still there. And you can see from the deposits with metals kind of like iridium and a few other metals.
Space metals.
They're common in space but rare on Earth. So they kind of know, yeah. So it hit the ground and absolutely vaporized. It turned into like dust and pebbles because it hit so hard.
How fast are we talking?
Well, it's fast enough for a 15 kilometer across meteor or asteroid to turn to dust when it hit. So like thousands of miles an hour, really, really, really fast. It smashed into the Earth and that spread all over the Earth. It went up into the atmosphere. Huge, huge damage. But the big thing, and I'm going to check. Yeah. So the earthquakes, they have evidence that they were felt as far away as Argentina from Mexico, which is, quarter of the way around the world. And it would have gone out in circles. And because it hit near the sea, there would have been gigantic tsunamis. So there's sediments from the bottom of the sea found way inland at that exact moment. So huge disruption, massive tsunamis that went out in circles from it. So anything that was near the coast, absolutely destroyed. Huge, giant earthquakes, massive tsunamis. And then because of the impact, the heat of the air moving, the friction of the air moving from the impact would have sent a heat wave. And this isn't a, get your factor 50 on heat wave.
This just sounds like everything.
Oh, it was a cataclysmic event.
This is in the day.
This is all within a few minutes of it happening at the start. This is right at the start. The long-term effects we haven't got to yet. It was bigger than that. So if you're a dinosaur and you're munching on your grass or you're hunting something.
Just chilling.
Huge earthquake, very quickly followed by a heat wave. And not what we call a heat wave, a wave of scorching hot air, which would have started wildfires, caused massive devastation. And that was only the beginning of the problems.
What goes on next?
So
What's worse than this?
the dust from the meteor or for the asteroid was the big problem. So when dust falls on that scale, because it will go up and then eventually start to fall, it will start to heat. So you know when a spaceship comes in, it re-enters and the friction causes it to be really hot. Heat. Yeah, because it's all friction.
So it'll be like raining fire.
Yeah, around the world. So there's that problem. So there would have been wildfires all around the world, anywhere that was dry. Then the lighter dust that didn't fall and stayed up in the atmosphere would have caused what we call a nuclear winter. So
just blocking the
sun out. So there was
I knew that.
So there was a huge reduction in like plant life in the sea and on land because there was very little sun. If you didn't happen to be underground when
I was going to say, well, how much died?
75% of all species.
Of all things?
All living things.
So what survived? What was the 25%? Stuff in the water must have been sad.
No, a lot of stuff in the water died because the water plants died out. Because of the blocked light. There was massive ecosystem collapse all around the world. This is the thing. People think only the dinosaurs died.
Yeah, I've never fully thought
a very, very small proportion of everything survived. And the dinosaurs didn't die. Just most of them did.
Right.
Birds are dinosaurs.
What do you mean?
Birds are
dinosaurs.
Yeah.
What's that mean? You can't
Birds
just
are
say
dinosaurs.
that. You can't just say that.
They're like a lot of the dinosaurs were feathered. The smaller ones were more likely to survive. If you look at what's a velociraptor or an oviraptor, one of those type things, and you put feathers on it, it looks extraordinarily like an ostrich.
Ostriches, yeah, I buy this.
Yeah. So
aren't chickens somewhat dinosaur?
All birds are. Crocodiles aren't dinosaurs, but they were around at the time.
They were there, yeah.
So they survived. So some subgroups of them survived. Small mammals survived because they probably lived underground, were better able to deal with the cold because they regulate their temperature, all that kind of thing. But a lot of plants, a lot of animals were just completely wiped out. It was not a good day. You know when you have a bad Monday morning when you've been out the night before? Nothing.
Why don't we get hit with that anymore? We haven't had one in a while, have we?
Fingers crossed.
Would you?
Space is really big. Like massive.
I feel like it still should happen now, though.
Jupiter is our friend.
Right.
And the moon is our friend.
Okay.
So Jupiter is so massive. If you put all of the other planets together, they would fit inside Jupiter. It's huge. It's really massive.
That's sucking the comets.
They get brought in. And
the moon's sucking the comets as well? Is that why the moon's full of like craters in there?
Yeah, smaller ones hit the moon. And the moon's craters don't recover because there's no atmosphere, there's no water to wear them down again. So they just stay forever.
Oh, no way.
But Jupiter sucks up a lot of the comments. Comments?
Get
your comments in. A lot of the comets and asteroids. So there was one called the Shoemaker-Levy one about 30 years ago that crashed into Jupiter and they watched it happen.
Oh, nice.
So they were able to see
That'd
it.
That'd be nice. Nice viewing.
Yeah, Jupiter protects us. It's kind of like a shield.
Shout out to Jupiter.
Oh, absolutely. Big ups to Jupiter. Without that, we would be in a lot of trouble.
If Jupiter is watching out there. Oh, this is a good one. This is a great question. Why aren't bugs the size of cows?
So this is my bag. I love insects. I'm an entomologist, and I know there are definitive 2 reasons.
Why don't we keep going?
One of the problems that insects would have is that if they get bigger, they can't get oxygen into the center of their body. So you can get really, really long bugs. So you get really big millipedes, giant ones. But if the volume, if you have a big spherical body like we have, they can't be thick. Yeah, they can't be thick. 2 C's. No. So one of the problems is that you can't get oxygen in. So we have lungs and a proper circulatory system, a closed circulatory system. So our heart pumps blood around our body. Every cell gets oxygen and it needs it all of the time to respire. Without it, it can't make energy and it dies. So that transport system is everywhere in our body. There's tiny, tiny little blood vessels everywhere. Insects don't have that. So they don't have lungs, for starters. They just
didn't know that.
They just have spiracles, which are little tubes that come from the outside into the inside. There's tiny little holes along their body.
This sounds like alien stuff.
And the air has to diffuse in. It just has to make its way in itself. And there's a limit to that. There's a physics rule. There's a limit of how far.
There's a rule.
A law of physics.
Okay, I was going to say, he's making the rules. Well, now you can stop growing. You better stop growing right there.
So that means they can't. They just can't get the oxygen into their interior. Whereas our lungs are pumping constantly, our heart's beating constantly. Insects don't have that. Also, their circulatory system is what's called an open system. So it kind of just sloshes around. They don't have a heart pumping it around. It's not moving, like the insects don't have a pulse.
But was there not like giant dragonflies back in the day?
There was. And I'm going to get the name right.
I don't know if I've made that up or Jurassic Park.
So the biggest one ever was Meganeuropsis permiana.
I was going to say that. You was going to say it, interrupted me.
So yeah, that was 275 million years ago. And it was...
How big?
75 centimeters, so...
Oh, wingspan?
Kind of size. No, a 2.5 foot wingspan. So yeah, 75 centimeters, 2.5 foot. So that kind of size wingspan.
Imagine the noise.
So, oh yeah, and that was a hunter as well. So
vile. That's one of the worst
dragonflies. Dragonflies are the most successful hunters, by the way. They capture something 95% of the time.
What are they catching? Little bugs and
stuff that they eat. But the dragonfly was around then in the Permian period, and during the Permian period, the percentage of oxygen in the atmosphere was much higher. So they know this from sort of, I think, ice cores and sediments and stuff. They can tell how much oxygen was in the atmosphere. So it was much, much higher at the time.
So they just need oxygen to get big?
So if we pumped the oxygen up...
That's what I'm saying, like lock one in a room, keep feeding it.
Loads and loads of oxygen.
We'd get a cow-sized bug.
No.
This is what you should be doing in the lab. You should be doing this in the lab.
You'd need to do it for millions of years.
Okay, that could be a rate.
So you would be able to get up to that kind of size again, but you wouldn't be able to get a cow-sized one because it's another limitation.
What?
So insects don't have skeletons; they have exoskeletons. So they use chitin on the outside, and unless it evolved a different way of doing it, there's a limit to how big the exoskeleton can support an interior structure. So it's not strong enough.
So we can't have cow-sized bugs.
No. We could have bug-sized cows, though, if we bred them down. That'd be fun.
Make a delicious little snack. One I've always wanted to know, why do we yawn if we see someone else yawn?
Yeah, yawning.
It drives me mad. It drives me mad. Someone's probably just yawns watching this.
That's because they've been talking about it.
Yeah.
And now...
I might go during this chat.
It's hard not to, isn't it? You're telling yourself
but
not
why?
to. So we are pack animals. We are naturally pack animals. Mm-hmm. We are evolved to live together in groups.
Yeah.
And usually small groups. The big groups we have now are very alien to most primate groups.
Like naturally in the wild. Yeah, be like,
and then they'd splinter and they'd break up. But part of that is you have to have social interactions to keep it together. When you don't have language, especially, you have to have, grooming behaviors and other behaviors.
Yeah.
And one thing that we do is that we socially mirror people. So this is where we copy people. We copy body language. We copy accents. If you hang around with someone long enough, you start to talk like them.
Yeah.
If you live in a city for long enough, you'll adopt their accent. You do it without even thinking about it. It's subconscious. And yawning is part of that because it's a very visible, noticeable expression. It's a piece of body language that you can see.
But if I seen someone sitting there laughing, I might laugh actually.
No, laughter's contagious.
Yeah.
Like if you watch, people give out about, sound reels and laughter tracks.
Yeah.
If you watch something without one.
Yeah, have you ever seen Friends? Without Friends without a laughter? It's
not funny.
It's not very funny anyway.
Yeah, but it's a lot less funny.
It's terrifying. It's weird.
And if you watch it on your own with no stimulus to make you laugh, you are less likely to laugh. Because we copy people. That's what we do.
So it's literally, I'm just copying you.
It can emotively do it, yeah. And you do it without even realizing. Next time you're in a bar, watch a group of people and see how they're sitting. Most people will sit the same way. If one person leans forward, they'll all lean forward. If one stretches back, they'll all stretch.
I hate that. Makes me feel like I'm not actually making a choice on anything I'm doing.
Yeah, because you're not. We are influenced massively by other people.
Do you know what I always kind of thought it was? I remember seeing this ages ago, and I'm going to sound so stupid. I don't know where I read this. It's obviously wrong. I heard that when you yawn, or when you see someone yawn, you think they're taking in loads of oxygen, and I should be taking in oxygen too. Does that make sense to some extent?
It is what you're doing. You're taking in air.
But just because I'm like, oh no, you're getting air, I need air now.
Yeah, it might well be on some subconscious level. You're copying them because either you think they're a person to emulate. So one thing that a lot of people say is if you want to see if someone's checking you out in a crowded room, is yawn and see who else yawns.
Oh my God.
And you can watch them. But there is a slight thing. If you don't do this, it's not definite, but it can be a sign of being a psychopath.
If you don't copy?
Because this social mirroring is a form of empathy. And if you are not empathetic, that's kind of textbook psychopath. So the people who never ever do it are either massively strong-willed and independent, or a little bit psycho.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So we just copy. That's
we are humans.
The
we are
thing.
pack animals.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yeah.
Why do women live longer than men? Why?
Right, they do. This is like definitive. If there used to be things called tontines, have you ever heard of these?
Never in my
Where everybody puts money into a pot, and the last one alive wins the money. There was one in The Simpsons. Grandpa Simpson was in the flying hellfish, and Mr. Burns tried to kill him to get the
safe.
and the ark. Yeah. But less complicated than that. They used to be a thing. They really were. They were like, sometimes they were nationwide, and everybody who would win them would have put in a baby girl into it because they are more likely to live longer. And it's just a thing. Yeah. So the population of Earth is slightly more women than men because of this, but there are lots of reasons. One, and I'm a big proponent of this, is that men are way more likely to do something stupid.
I was going to say, I don't know if this is a scientific answer, it's because men are thick, not two C's.
Thick is
not thick,
yeah, they're way more likely to take risks.
Yeah.
Way more likely. They're way more likely to be aggressive. They're way more likely to do stupid things.
Get in dangerous situations.
Yeah. Like if you see someone standing on top of a step ladder that's on top of a forklift lifting up, it's never going to be a woman. It just isn't. It's always going to be a dude with power tools on some, like, always. If you look at statistics for car crashes, where people overtake in bad places, crashes on backcountry roads from speeding too fast, it's almost always men.
All right.
You know, there's quite a lot of women who will do stupid stuff, don't get me wrong. But if you look at a big enough population, you know, it's generally boy racers rather than girl racers. Not always, but generally.
But there's got to be something genetic.
Yeah, it's testosterone, it's hormonal. And if you think about it from a pack point of view, people get impressed by that kind of behavior. You know, you try and show off and it's, you know, trying to impress and trying to push yourself up the social ranking. And men are way more likely to do it. So I think that is definitely a factor. Okay. But even if you remove the people who die from doing something stupid, if you just go with natural with natural causes.
Women live longer, don't they?
There's lots of reasons. So one is that women are way more likely to go to the doctor. They're way more likely to seek medical attention. They're way more likely to, you know.
I couldn't go to the doctor. I couldn't be bothered.
Yeah.
I'd have to be like clinically dead before I'd go to the doctor, I think.
And the idea of getting a checkup, most women would embrace that, especially when they get a little bit older.
Yeah, okay.
Most men have to be forced at like gunpoint to go to the doctor. You know, they're like, it's fine. One of my brothers, Chunk, I do love you. You're awesome.
Shout out to Chunk.
Like, he didn't like needles. So if he ever needed to get stitches out, he'd take them out himself. Because he didn't like needles, you know, that kind of thing. And he would not go to the doctor no matter what happened. You know, it's very, very hard to get him to go because it'll be fine. I'm grand, you know, just tough now. So that means some things, especially things that are treatable if you catch them early, like cancers and stuff, women are more likely to get screened and get tested. Yeah. So in the Western world. But even if you go outside of disease, just getting older, testosterone itself is our killer.
Well, that's the problem, is it?
Testosterone is very strongly linked to a higher likelihood of heart disease.
Okay.
So for whatever reason, whatever way the hormone affects you, you get cardiovascular disease. And estrogen, which is more dominant in women, actually protects you against heart disease.
What's going on? Yeah. Is this the thing?
And, you know, there's just so many reasons why men are way more likely to go to war. Way more likely to die in that respect. They tend to socially do more dangerous jobs. They're more likely
There's several reasons here. I thought there was going to be like one definitive answer. It's like a list.
Basically, we
don't stand a chance.
Women are more sensible, take better care of themselves.
Smarter.
Generally, you know, make smarter decisions, less likely to go to war, and are genetically programmed and hormonally programmed to not die. Whereas men, we're like lemmings. We're just jumping off it.
Excellent. So going on from that, why did giant tortoises live to 120 and a dog only lives to like 15? What's going on there?
Yeah, I know. So there was a giant tortoise that Charles Darwin knew, that Steve Irwin knew.
Still
that was still alive at the time. I think he's died since, but yeah, so that was these really, really long lifespans. And there's a few reasons for this, but you know, live fast, die young.
No, live old.
Live slow.
Live slow, die old.
So tortoises do the opposite. So there's a real school of thought that, you know, animals that are bigger, that have slower heart rates, slower metabolisms, live for longer. So quite a lot of the longest lived animals
do nothing.
Are like amphibians and reptiles.
Right.
They get their energy from outside. A lot of it, they have to get their heat from outside. They have slow metabolisms when they're cold. They basically chill. I don't imagine tortoises much stress in its life.
They don't do anything. What's the point in them?
So they just metabolically go slower, and that means that their cells are less likely to get damaged. One of the things that we do when our cells sort of metabolize is we use up a lot of oxygen, which itself ages us. Oxygen's really reactive. So we're getting poisoned by it.
By oxygen?
All the time, yeah.
Get rid of it.
So, but yeah, let's cancel oxygen. Don't cancel oxygen. So that's one of the things that ages us. And the very fact of our cells turning over and making energy can age us. That's just how it is. There's also an idea that some reptiles and amphibians have a slightly different way of how they copy their DNA. And one of the reasons why we age is because if we get errors in our DNA and the cell goes bad, it goes into what's called senescence, which is where the cell kind of shuts down.
Dies.
And a lot of the time it'll die off and be killed off, but sometimes it just stays there. And senescence is contagious. So the cells around it will start to senesce. And this is one of the reasons why we age.
Right.
So they may be wrinkly, but they're doing all right, tortoises.
They look old.
Yeah, they look old right from the start.
Yeah.
So they don't worry about that. They're not into creams and self-care or anything. They just take it really easy. And humans can do that too. Stress is a killer.
Really?
Literally a killer. It boosts all sorts of chemicals that are useful when you're an animal and you're under stress to get you moving, fight or flight and all that. But constantly being stressed literally ages you. You look older, your hair will go grey, your skin will wrinkle, everything goes bad. So
be chill, live longer.
Basically it's be more tortoise.
I don't think I want him. That's no existence, that. It's like half a rock, half a lizard thing. They don't do anything.
They kind of just roll around and eat and sleep.
Yeah, I'd rather be a dog.
Yeah.
There you go. Would you rather be dog or turtle?
That's got to be dog, hasn't it?
There you go. There you go. Settle into the next question. Tick, that was fast. Nice. So why does nobody talk about the ozone layer thing anymore? I remember that being spoke about loads and then silence.
For the kiddies, because it's been quite a while since this was a thing. And
some when I was a kid, I remember that being mentioned loads.
Some people of a certain age might not even be aware that this exists.
What is it, Darragh?
So ozone is a form of oxygen. It's O3.
Right.
And there's a layer high up in the atmosphere where there's a thin layer of ozone. And it's a really, really useful layer because it reflects a lot of radiation from the sun. So one of the big problems when you don't have the ozone layer is that too much heat comes in, so it can contribute to the greenhouse effect, climate change, that kind of thing. When we were young, they realized that there was a big hole in the ozone layer, which is a problem, and it was man-made. So there were loads of chemicals that we used, mostly in refrigeration and propellants for cans, for spray cans, like deodorant.
Like Lynx?
Was killing the atmosphere.
Oh, that's good.
And they would go up and react with the ozone and break it down.
Right, okay.
And it was a huge problem. They were incredibly stable, which is why they were used in refrigeration. So they lasted for a very, very long time. They were called CFCs. Do you remember them? Chlorofluorocarbons? Yeah?
No, I don't. I don't know what this is.
And the guy who invented them also invented putting lead into petrol. There you go.
Sounds like a good guy.
Yeah, well, he is a good guy. We just didn't realise what he was doing in hindsight. Not brilliant. But there was a huge big hole over sort of the South Pole, and that's a big problem because if the South Pole heats up, the glaciers melt, sea levels rise, we're all in a lot of trouble.
Right.
So weirdly, the world listened to the experts, and that's why it got better. There is no hole in the ozone layer anymore, or if there is, it's much smaller and much more controlled.
Because we just stopped doing certain things?
We listened to the scientists who told us what to do and followed that advice.
Why have we done this?
There was a worldwide protocol. CFCs were banned and some other chemicals that were affecting the ozone layer, and the ozone layer was able to replenish itself.
Oh my God.
And it's now
so we've done a good
largely
thing.
like it was. We listened, we did what we should do,
and it worked.
If only we could do this more often. So the scientists came up, but they just had a big political meeting. The UN and loads of countries signed a treaty, and that was it.
So we don't speak about it anymore?
No, because it's not a problem anymore.
Because it got fixed?
Yeah.
But why don't we speak about that? Hey, look, we all done a good thing here. We fixed it.
I know. I think we should use it as an example.
That should have been a headline. Yeah. Ozone layer fixed.
Yeah. Well, it's not completely fixed.
World saved.
But yeah, it's way better. We had a major problem for a few decades, and we resolved it by doing a sensible thing.
That's lovely.
It's strange for humans, but that's a nice note to end the podcast on, isn't it?
What a gorgeous note.
Positive.
To scientists and nerds and stuff.
We are occasionally useful.
Unbelievable. But yeah, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to A Normal Meets a Nerd. One thing we do need is your comments, because we want to get Darragh to answer these questions you want to know.
So if you have a question that seems like nonsense and no one will give you the answer, send it in and I will.
He's your man. He's your man.